Y'all, going back and watching VeggieTales as an almost 28-year-old now, it is hysterical.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I've been, like, going back and watching it, and I'm like, how did they make some of these stories so funny? So I'm like, shout out to the big idea of productions people for making stuff that it holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello! Welcome to Lore Drop, a reinvent podcast, where we talk about all things reinvent. I'm Abby, the executive director of Reinvent Productions.
I'm Ben, the creative and artistic director.
And our third party member today joining us at our kitchen table is...
Hayden Bradley. I am playing Captain Amazing.
Yeah, Captain Amazing in Ordinary Heroes, which is going to be on stage in just a couple weeks. This is our second episode of Lore Drop, but it is kind of confusing because we've been batch recording these over the last week before Ben goes back to his teaching job. So this is the first day of 2026, but we have recorded about 14 other episodes before this one. So this is a fun little mind.
See if you can guess which one we recorded in what order when you're listening to.
If anybody gets it right, I'll get you a t-shirt from the shop. None of you will get it right. But yeah, today we are going to be talking about Captain Amazing, which is why we have our on-stage Captain Amazing with us today. How these next few episodes of Lore Drop are going to be working is that Ben is going to talk about the Universe 17 version of the character, and then we're going to talk about how they got translated to stage for Ordinary Heroes, which is in Universe 1. But we'll talk more about that as we get to it. At any point, Hayden or I might pop in with comments or questions about the character, some clarifying stuff. We're literally just sitting at our kitchen table, just chit-chatting with our buddies, and it's going to be fun. But
Yeah.
before we dive into the lore drop, we must decide the most important thing about this is what animated trio are we? This is looking at the anime trope of like the big three, but not all of our friends watch anime as much as we do, so we have expanded it to animated trios. So what are we thinking, fellas? I think you had a good one.
I was thinking from the movie Spirited Away, the little girl Sin and the baby that got turned into a mouse and the little bird that carries that mouse.
I love that.
That's really funny.
But who is who? Are you
I
the
don't know.
are you the bird? Are you the little girl? Are
Honestly,
you...
I think I'm going to say I'm the mouse.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be that mouse for sure.
Okay,
Nice.
you'll be that is really funny. Hayden is 1,000 feet tall. That is an approximate estimate. No, we'll need to put in our show notes the picture of me and Hayden standing next to each other as Captain Amazing and Sneak.
Yeah.
As it not only shows how tall Hayden is, but how short I am. But it cracked me up whenever I saw that photo for the first time. All right. Okay, so Ben, tell us about Captain Amazing in Universe 17.
Awesome. So in Universe 17, the primary universe of Reinvent, Captain Amazing, real name Carl Dunn, is a human man who gained superpowers after the mysterious explosion of the polymerization reactor in Wellsburg. He was born in 1986, is still alive to the present, but some of his powers and abilities, his physical strength and capabilities are enhanced when his skin is in contact with gold, and then the opposite happens. He's weakened when his skin is in contact with silver. Some notable allies of Captain Amazing are fellow Order of Heroes members Warhead, Circuit, Tower, Jetstream, and Turbine. And his notable adversaries, and this is a fun fact, Captain Amazing was the first hero that I made a full, rogues gallery for. And so his top 5 villains are the Silver Sentry, Booming Boxer, Kuro Obi, Metal Monger, and Red Notice.
Booming Boxer, I know him all too well.
Yeah.
Wait, Red Notice is an adversary.
Uh-huh.
I thought that they liked each other.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
That's definitely part of it. They've got the early Batman, Catwoman, Spider-Man, Black Cat vibes going on.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Captain Amazing's first real-world appearance, in terms of when we used him the first time in Reinvent, was actually back in Real World and in Universe Year 2017. It was a little side story for the Cataclysm campaign, which was the first D&D campaign run in the Reinvent universe. But it was a jailbreak session. So in this one, Captain Amazing was being held captive in the Dustria City prison when the Bandits Trade Union initiated initiated a jailbreak to free their bosses, Timothy and Owen, as well as fellow members Mike and Areem. Captain Amazing was also being held captive in this prison, and his armor was away from him, and he was like specifically like handcuffed with silver and in like a silver laced cell. But he got broken out, and he helped the bandits escape this jail, and now he owes them a favor.
Okay, how did he end up in jail in Dust City?
That's something that is never hasn't been explicitly explored. But one of the things I have written down about that is that in the early like production phases of Quartz Bots from Gemstone Industries, Captain Amazing went to go check out what was going on as a member of the Order of Heroes, and was like, "Hey, I need to see what's going on here." Found out that the Quartz Bots were really bad, started destroying some of them, and then was arrested because he would rather fight back against robots than innocent police officers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
what a good guy. That's crazy. I was wondering if it was kind of like a Beauregard in France situation where he didn't necessarily know that magic was illegal,
Nope.
or like he was just being a good guy.
Yep.
Nice.
I will say, Ben, really quick, your ability to world build like this is actually really cool to see. Like, I'm very impressed.
Bro, you got look
Oh,
look
man.
how long this document is
It
for
gets-
Captain Amazing.
Yeah.
I love
It's
it.
even more.
They'll just keep yapping.
So now we're going to rewind in the reinvent timeline for Captain Amazing back to his origins. We're going to go all the way back to 2003 when he was 17 and he joined Free Flight Wrestling, a professional wrestling company, as a wrestler under the ring name of the Amazing Callahan, and was part of this core roster, one of the younger people there, of course. But 3 years later, he won his first title when he was the inaugural Freedom Champion in 2006. And this is their sort of like mid-card title for the men's division. He was a very acrobatic.
Yeah, Ricochet.
Yeah, imagine.
type
Exactly.
vibes.
Imagine Ricochet, Johnny Gargano. But tragedy struck 6 years later. Of course, the Amazing Callahan suffered a career-ending injury in 2012 when he had finally gained a title match for the Free Flight Wrestling Men's World Championship, and he did win that match, but got a neck injury that forced him to retire from the ring, and so he had to relinquish the title the next night. So never was defeated for it.
Dang.
Undefeated champion. That's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever do any of the cross promotionals with WWE? Or I guess it would have been WWF at this point, so maybe there weren't any cross promotions.
No, not WWF, because WWF didn't participate in those cross promotion pay-per-views that Free Flight Wrestling did. But there was Ring of Honor was the big one that did those shows with them. So it's entirely likely that the Amazing Callahan had matches against the likes of CM Punk, Adam Cole.
Yes.
Yeah, Seth
Adam
Rollins
Cole.
when he was going by
Seth
Tyler Black.
Oh,
Yes!
yeah. Oh, that would be awesome.
That's canon. Yes,
Yeah.
that
We're
one
locking
right
that in
there.
right now.
So the next big thing for Carl Dunn is in 2016 when he starts working for the Minerva Institute, a scientific research firm in the United States. He worked as a member of the security team at their polymerization reactor in Wellsburg. He is stationed at the security nexus when the polymerization reactor explodes. So he has some time to recover before his powers actually manifest, which is later on in March of 2016. One night he is doing some maintenance at his old wrestling gym when someone tries robbing the place. A burglary is attempted. And he fends off the burglar by grabbing one of the trophies, which is made of gold, and finds out that he's able to move almost as like swiftly and adeptly as he was in his wrestling days. And so after this, he adopts the name of Captain Amazing, and it might be in there in Hero Forge still, but his early costume joining Order of Heroes is also very.
Oh, it's
I
like
think it's fun.
I love
It's
that.
very Casey Jones inspired.
Yeah,
From
Yeah.
TMNT.
yeah, so homemade feel.
He's
That's
got
really cool.
the bangles. Looks like these look like football pads.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's got a
It's like Batman. I think it's Batman Begins, where he says, "I'm not wearing hockey pads." That's
Yeah,
what that reminds me of.
this very much also gives like early Daredevil like Charlie Cox's
The black,
yeah.
the black, all black.
The
stuff.
mask and
Oh
the
yeah.
ropes, yeah.
Which also is probably one of the coolest costumes
It's
I've
so
ever seen.
good.
That's one of
Yeah.
my favorites by far.
I like it that both Captain Amazing and Percy have outfits that they made from their
Yeah.
closets.
And so he does his hero work on his own in Chicago.
Chicago.
That is also his hometown. So he is there doing that until September of 2016, when one night he is fighting Booming Boxer and he is on the losing end when he is rescued by Circuit, who hops in, helps him defeat Booming Boxer, and afterwards tells him, "Hey, we've had our eyes on you for a good bit. We know you used to work for the Minerva Institute. Come join the Order Order of Heroes. From there on, he joins the Order of Heroes, and then the smarter heroes in there, the very technologically focused ones, make his like full gold suit from there.
How many people in the Order of Heroes kind of poked fun at his name? Because his name is a little funny. It's more so...
I say it's like a 50-50 shot.
Especially since he gave himself the name.
Yeah.
I'll be Captain Amazing.
Like, I want to know what the thought process was behind that. Like, did he... like?
I mean, it's definitely... It's partially an homage to his wrestling thing, because the Amazing Callahan was the name there as well.
I like that.
But it's also like... I'm sure there's some people like who in there who were wrestling fans, and they're like, you really think no one's going to put that together?
Yeah.
He's like, what?
I wear a helmet now.
Yeah.
No one's gonna know.
Yo, okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. So the next time that we see Captain Amazing is in the Dynamite campaign, and lo and behold, it's very similar to his first appearance, and we fast forward to the year 2025 in universe. He is held captive by Project Alpha in one of their desert research facilities, and so the Order of Heroes sends a rescue team comprised of Circuit Tower and Richard to go rescue him, and they also rescue the rest of the party at that time as well.
I love me some Richard.
Yeah, good old Richard.
Oh, yeah.
I remember as a player, you showed us the Yu-Gi-Oh card that Captain Amazing was inspired by, and all of us were like, this freaking dork. This is who they're rescuing. But we didn't realize he was like actually a really cool hero.
Yeah.
But all of us were you still calling him Captain Gold?
Yeah, that was before I stopped using the Yu-Gi-Oh card names.
Yes, he was called that. I think that's why we called him more of a dork. We were like, Captain Gold. Really? This is the best you could come up with?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but and we might get into this later, but whenever y'all came up with these characters and stuff, or you came up with these characters, was it from a game y'all were playing, or was it just something that you came up with on your own?
So especially the Order of Heroes were pretty much every one of them was inspired by a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Okay.
There's in that game, one of the archetypes is called the Elemental Heroes, and it's very fun because that's one that like they specifically designed those after American comic books. And so that was because growing up, Yu-Gi-Oh GX was my favorite show. That's what like got me into all of this stuff. And the main character used those Elemental Heroes and all this comic book stuff. And so the world had already started, and then I was like, you know what, I really love these things, and I make up my own stories in my head for these cards, and so let me just make them into actual characters. And then at some point it was in the Dynamite campaign, and I was like, you know what, I want to actually like change their names so that maybe one day if we continue with this, that Konami doesn't sue me into oblivion.
Right. Konami, we changed the name, please don't come for us.
But yeah, and so from there was when I started adding in like backstories and power sets and everything, sort of like inspired by the original effects of the cards.
Well, and I might be wrong about this, but the idea of free flight wrestling started because of a different campaign.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we were playing in a campaign with a friend that like had nothing to do with Reinvent. Like it was like an actual fantasy campaign. But Ben was playing Eric Kokra called John Squawkins.
Yeah, I made him a barbarian with the entertainer background.
Oh, yeah?
And so I was like, he is a wrestler.
But something that Ben and I have done for like outside campaigns that we've played in is that we'll take those characters and make them Reinvent characters too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so then I was like, you know, it makes sense for John Squawkins to have his own wrestling promotion.
Right.
So with that, did you go back and you were like, oh, Captain Amazing's backstory is that he's going to be a wrestler, or was that before you came up with Free Flight Wrestling? Which came first?
That was Free Flight Wrestling came up first before the backstory of Captain Amazing.
Nice. Also reminds me of Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah.
When he goes out as, what was it, the human spider?
Yeah.
Is that what he tried to do? And then the dude was like, no, it's stupid.
Yeah, I got
you
for 3
Spider-Man.
minutes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think it's fun. One of our friends, Emily, she really wants us to play the wrestling campaign. I'm doing the Free Fight Wrestling campaign.
That's
There was a one-off where her character, we were doing a wrestling thing where the WWE, Vince McMahon sent WWE wrestlers to fight us, and she suplexed John Cena, and it was really cool.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
sorry, excuse me. She powerbombed
Yes.
John Cena, and it was incredible.
But so the next time we see Captain Amazing in the Dynamite campaign is during the liberation of Rondor Arc. But what happens is that Captain Amazing is is with the Order of Heroes when they go to attack. So in the reinvent world, there's this group called the Apocalypse Captains, which they're sort of like the Four Horsemen, but they're all pirate captains with their own flagship at sea. So they go after Captain War's flagship, the Sun Tzu, so that they can sort of get easier travel paths through the oceans, because at this point there's an alien invasion happening on Earth, so air travel is a no-go. And so they said, you know what, we're gonna go get this ship. So Captain Amazing was in that group that went to attack and commandeer that ship. They were successful. There were unfortunately a couple of casualties, and so the Order of Heroes gets the ship, and then they join the Earth Defense Legion, which is this sort of like worldwide coalition of all the hero groups on Earth at the time, and they help break the blockade around Rondor, which opens up the gateway to completely liberate Rondor. And there's a thing I forgot in a different episode, which is that the Order of Heroes also went to the border between Rondor and England, because there was like an electric fence border that was set up, and the Order of Heroes took that out. But
All the things. The Order of Heroes.
Crazy war stuff.
They were doing stuff.
Yeah.
To help us get through.
Yep.
It was very helpful.
And then, Captain Amazing did participate in the massive 8 Days War at the end of the Dynamite campaign, the final confrontation with the forces of Dravik. And then the biggest thing he's got after Dynamite is in 2036, when Warhead, the at the time leader of the Order of Heroes, decides to retire from heroing officially. In doing so, he designates Captain Amazing as the third leader of the Order of Heroes. After doing so, Captain Amazing later on goes on, and this is about 2 years later, 2038, opens an initiative to invite new heroes to the Order of Heroes, sort of like on a tryout basis of like, come on in. And that's when we get, that's when Trickshot joins the Order of Heroes in Universe 17.
Leaves his life of crime behind.
Yep.
I like the Justice Society kind of feel of it, to the Justice League and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a fun thing with Reinvent that I really like, and that we'll talk about in other episodes, about the fact that the majority of the stories that we tell are like about groups of people. There aren't like a lot of lone wolf characters. I mean, there are lone wolf characters, but they'll more often than not come together in groups to accomplish goals. Part of it's the nature of playing D&D, like you're playing in a party, but it's a lot of team ups with people and like people working within established groups, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also have to admit, I've never had the pleasure of playing D&D.
Oh, man.
I know.
Well, we'll fix that. So transitioning into Ordinary Heroes, stage play that's coming up in a couple weeks. Captain Amazing is one of the characters in Ordinary Heroes that didn't change as much between Universe 17 setting and this setting. Doesn't necessarily have as much backstory, but is a very similar
Yeah, we
type
kind
of
of
character.
in Universe 1, which is the universe that Ordinary Heroes takes place in, we sort of get that like finalized version of Captain Amazing from the beginning there. And so in this universe as well, he is the very first superhero that is in there, because in Universe 1, Reinvent are the comic books that Wendell writes. And so yeah, he's the first one there, and he's sort of the de facto like always leader of the Order of Heroes. And so in this story as well, he primarily operates out of Megalo City instead of Chicago. Megalo City does also exist in Universe 17, but that is later in Universe 17 where the Order of Heroes is housed out of. And that's their like home base, but they all spread out and cover different cities and areas from there. And then he's also, of course, the founder and the very first leader of the Order of Heroes. His notable allies in this story include Sneak, Richard, Red Notice, and Trickshot. His notable adversaries include Booming Boxer, Lady Earthquake, and Witch Doctor.
And Witch Doctor is a character that is unique to Universe 1.
Yes.
And is one of the only characters written in Ordinary Heroes that does not have basically a doppelganger in Universe 17, which I think is really cool, and that they're the big bad for this show. I do think it's fun having characters like Sneak and Trickshot being close allies to Captain Amazing for this one. So, Hayden, what's it been like playing basically Superman?
Well, it's been amazing, because Superman, as I've stated a million times to you guys, is my all-time favorite hero. And so when you guys asked me if I wanted to do this, I was very thrilled and excited, because, who wouldn't want to be that archetype, It's been an experience I have never had before, and it's been a great one at that. So
nice. So you have not been stage performing for very long.
No. My first show was back in September, which was Miranda Strobel's Much Ado About Nothing at Hollingsworth, of course. And that was, I think, probably the best way to get into theater, in my opinion. Like that show, everyone who was a part of it, it was fantastic. There's nothing bad I can say about it. So
Yeah, that was a really wonderful experience. I worked, the way I met you is I was the intimacy coordinator for it. So I did the staging for the couple kisses that were throughout that show. And I also work as the production manager for Hollingsworth Hall Cultural Center. And so I was kind of like on the outside watching that process, but I do remember there were nights I was sitting in my office and I heard you guys rehearsing, and that's one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. So I would like hear you guys hitting the jokes. I was like, this is funny. Like y'all did a really great job with it. I was shocked that was your first experience being on stage. I was like, no way. Because I asked Miranda, I was like, where'd you find this guy? He's so tall. But I mean, like, I'll be honest, I've told you this a little bit before, but like outing myself, I very selfishly, I saw Hayden for the first time and I was like, man, I got to get him in a show because he looks like a superhero. But with Captain Amazing, especially when I was first reading the drafts of the script, he's very, like, it's like if we had a fusion of Superman and Captain America, that's the character. Very like the all-American, like the idealized American dream type hero.
Well, and the sort of idea behind it was this idea of the trope in comic books of the cape, like as the identity of like, this is the purpose of this hero is to be inspiring. And that is one that both Superman and Captain America fall into as well.
Well, and he was the first of the heroes that you picked from Reinvent to be in Ordinary Heroes. You want to talk about the development of the script?
Yeah, so Ordinary Heroes was very different at first. Before the sort of like iteration that it ended up as of like an artist growing up and seeing how their writing evolves. The first iteration of Ordinary Heroes was this sort of like comic book history type thing where it's like, it still had like the whole thing of like, okay, let's see an issue of a comic book or like a really short version of it. And then after that, what happened is that the characters, instead of talking to each other about like, oh, how'd that go? They would talk directly to the audience and be like, this is what you just watched. Let's explain it. And all this other stuff. And I got a few scenes in with that. And then I was like, I'm not really vibing with this anymore. This feels a little bit too educational. Or it's like it's not the fun educational. It's very like boom lecture style. But so even in that first iteration, it was very very easy to identify. Of like I was like, I know I want a handful of like heroes and villains in here to like capture this wide range of what you can kind of find in any comic book universe. And so that was one that was like right off the bat, I was like, Captain Amazing and Richard, these two need to be in here. Because I also wanted to be like, I want ones that feel uniquely Reinvent. And so these are two heroes that I'm like, these are so very like specific to this universe in terms of like what they do and who they are. And from there, it was like, okay, now they need a sidekick person. And there's in the Order of Heroes in Universe 17, there's a whole like class of them that are sidekicks. And so I was like, okay, which one of them makes the most sense to throw in here? And I narrowed it down to the hero triplets pretty easily. And that was in that first iteration, they referenced the fact that Sneak was one of 3 triplets. But then when I realized, it's like, okay, cool, I'm not featuring the other 2, so I should probably just scrap that detail. And that was at the point where I realized, oh, I can stray a little bit from like this Universe 17 canon that exists here. And so from there, I was like, okay, the 2 spots that we're missing are specifically the archetype of the cowl, which is like the Batman type figure. The Daredevil also fits in here, of like the hero who's out there on the streets for like, not for the glory of it, but for love of the game, I guess.
The eraser heads.
They're out there because it's the right thing to do, and they're not looking for thanks or anything. And so that's where Dark Fog came into the mix. And then aside from that, I was like, now I need someone who doesn't actually have powers. And that was, again, a pretty easy one to narrow down to a handful of them. But I was like, Trickshot is the one. That's got to be in here. He's so, I was like, and also the idea of like the cowboy hero was very fun to me.
Kind of like was it Jonah Hex? Is that the cowboy?
Yeah, Jonah Hex. But Captain Amazing was like a go-to. I was like, no, he has to be in this, and he has to be the central figure.
This directing experience for me has been especially rewarding. One, because I've gotten to know my spouse better by directing the show, just because this is a fairly autobiographical piece written by Ben, and situations and stories that like he had told me about, before we were dating, when we were dating, like now, like being married for over 5 years. That like I knew this stuff before, but like now I feel like I understand it more, even though it's obviously very different from what it was actually like being a military kid traveling around the world and moving and the experiences you had that have shaped you in the person you are today. But being able to see people that I really enjoy, like whether it's like people we've been working with for the last couple of years or like brand new people like Hayden, that it's just special to see the insight that like other people are having about the story, not even just like about you in particular, but like connections that they are having themselves with like their childhood experiences or even like their experiences now as an adult. What I wanted to know was your perspective, Ben, on like seeing a character like Captain Amazing be like on stage now. Because like you've been the one running Captain Amazing as an NPC for the last however many years whenever he pops up at the table. But now we have one in real life. It's like, what's that been like for you?
I mean, it's been surreal is genuinely, I feel like that's an overused word a lot of the time, but it's the one that feels most accurate still. Of just, so that was one of the other things with selecting the main, like any of the characters that are featured in Ordinary Heroes, was that it was important to me, especially once I made the transition to it being that very inspired by things that I had experienced idea of it, and shifting to this whole Wendell thing. Of one of the things that I love about Reinvent is that it is that like collaborative universe that people can come in, make characters that get thrown into the mix, and that's always the beautiful thing about D&D and collaborative storytelling to me, is that everyone can bring things in here. And with this one, I wanted to. There were other characters that I thought would have probably worked better in some of these instances, but I didn't want to take someone else's character, mostly to also be like, this is me as a creator, but also us as a company. And so it was like my own sensibilities and stuff. I, in that sense of like, these are all characters that prior to this, I was the one doing them at the table, or creating all of the information and backstory with. It's been a lot of fun to see other people like take them on and also become attached to them in their own way now. Because that was another one, is like, I started writing this and I was like, I'm writing a story that I want to see. I'm not going to care about whether this is something that is going to be like popular or do well at whatever it's being, whatever it is, right? You know, but I want to write a story that affects me on an emotional level, and that gets to my writing philosophy as well, of like, if I write something that the phrase that we have for Reinvent of being fantastic starts with being a fan. That is my own like motto and everything. And that goes back to like, if you enjoy what you're doing and you love it and you are enthusiastic about it, that is infectious and it spreads to everyone else who interacts with that. And so once I like focused back in on that being the motivator for everything I wrote for this, I think that really paved the way for other people to also have those same things, because it's like a lot of it does touch on a little bit of like military child experiences, but also there's like very deeply personal ones in there as well, that it's like, yeah, not everyone experiences those things in that exact same way, but there's similar enough experiences that people are still able to empathize with what's going on, and that's the important thing of like building that empathy bridge with the audience. But yeah, it's been great.
Now, one thing I will say, though, is I've said this before, but it is obvious how passionate you guys are about this project. And I was telling James, actually, I think it was, I want to say the first read-through, I was telling him that it's so nice and refreshing to see, because like how I said I did Much Ado, everyone was so passionate about that. And I think that really came off of Miranda a lot. And it's the same thing here. You're all in. And I think that makes the experience 10 times better. So, because it really is infectious.
Well, it's fun to play. A lot of times, I mean, I have been involved in theater for, I'm going to hit year 18 this year. So over half of my life I've been performing, and where like sometimes we just take it too seriously.
Yeah.
And not that we shouldn't, like I mean, for me personally, I've like talked to friends about this, and I've expressed this, and it's kind of been my mentality since I was a teenager, that like, for me as a Christian, like the way when I am doing theater, this is how I worship, by like being like, I'm going to use the gifts that like I've been given to point back to the master creator. Like, because like, I'm like, God gives us all this wonderful creativity that we get to tell stories with. And it was like, even like having these, story, like even if I'm like playing a character that's not necessarily like a good person, like playing a witch in Macbeth, like I like, and this was something I talked about. This was the last show I did in high school before going off to college, and I like talked with our director about it, and they're like, well, I mean, when you're telling stories about good and evil, you have to have representations of the evil in order to like see the good that overcomes the evil. And I think that that's really cool, with like whatever role you're playing in a show, that you get to be part of telling that story. And something that I picked up on a couple weeks ago in a late night, and I like was kind of frantically writing it down so I wouldn't forget it. There is a point in the show where Wendell sort of isolates himself from the things that he loves, and in particular from the characters that he's been writing, and like the art that he's been making, and that is where he finds joy. But like he cuts himself off from that. And I have found in my times, like as a like in my walk as a Christian, where like there have been times where I have cut myself off from Jesus and just been like, I don't deserve you, or I'm gonna go do things my own way and whatever, and I go off and try and do my own thing. But the fact that like Jesus stays there and is waiting, like, and I love that throughout the show, that it is so clear that the characters and the art that Wendell is making, that they are there for him and are just like desperate to be able to love him back the way that he loves them, and that they are wanting a relationship with him. And there's a particular moment in the show where it's two lines that are exchanged between Wendell and Captain Amazing that I really do feel like represent how a relationship with Jesus can look, of like being of us coming back and saying, I'm so sorry, and him being like, it's okay, I've never left. And that he's ready to give us a big old bear hug, and with no caveats, there's no strings attached. He's always been waiting. And I love that we get to have that little bit of like just like the pure gospel message there with the show, even though this is not a Jesus show. No. it's not VeggieTales. We're not saying Bible verses with this. It's but I do especially with like the state of the world and how awful things are, and like how oftentimes like people who claim to be Christians say horrible things and behave so poorly, and I just want to shake them and be like, stop it, we're not like you. Right. Stop claiming this name because we're not crazy and hateful.
You not like us.
You not like us. But like, if anything, like what I want to see is that like if anybody were to like take away something from this show, is just that like that love is just like waiting for you, and will continue to be there for you. Like, even if you, like, I remember writing in my notes that, like, how many times have I found myself just standing in the doorway saying, I'm so sorry. But the answer is the same every single time of, it's okay, I never left. And I think it's just really special. And the day that I like that I set the blocking for that scene, I was a wreck, because I thought I was so smart, and I had been writing blocking throughout the day, and like I'd gotten a little choked up, like writing it out and be like, oh, this is so good. And then when I realized I had to say it out loud to a group of people that I really love, and I'm like, oh no. This sucks. I have to be vulnerable in front of you people and communicate information as the one leading this project. Oh no. But it's powerful stuff. And for me personally, it's very nice to be able to have like a little bit of the gospel message in a show, even though we're not. It's not a Jesus show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fighting in this show. There's like
A lot of
there's
fighting.
a lot of beating up. There's some points where Captain Amazing does some really kind of scary stuff. But it's been nice to get to share that with you, Hayden, and then like with our actor Sam, who's playing Wendell, being able to connect with them of being like, hey, this is like kind of the way I'm going with this direction now. And like, I hope that like, even if people in our cast, like if they have different faiths and spiritual outlooks and whatever, at the end of the day, it's just like, I want people to like feel loved,
Right.
while doing this process. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Also, that VeggieTales reference was a fantastic pull.
Yeah.
That was elite.
Okay, this is such a side tangent. Y'all, going back and watching VeggieTales as an almost 28-year-old now, it is hysterical.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been like going back and watching it, and I'm like, how did they make some of these stories so funny? So I'm like, shout out to the big idea productions people for making stuff that it holds up.
Yeah. Sounds like I need to go back and revisit it.
Dude, it's worth it. It's a good time.
Yeah, but that also, because what you mentioned there as well when you were talking about Macbeth, and that like in stories, when you've got the like monumental forces for good and justice, that they need to be met with something equally as powerful and daunting in their adversaries as well. Is
You sure gave us a daunting adversary for this show.
But yeah, and that's that is a fun one, especially because like of the main like 5 heroes that we get, like Captain Amazing and Richard are the two that are like they are the same. They are who they are, right? They don't really like change very much throughout the script. And I think that's like every story needs someone who is like a steady rock that you can always reference to see how much other people have changed in comparison. But that's also like in that sense, like those are also the two characters who really get challenged the most as well. And that's part of I think that's also like the draw of that archetype of hero of the cape, of like that's why Superman and Captain America are such like well-loved characters. There's a reason why they're like the top of the list for popularity so often, you know, and also people like Spider-Man and everything, right? And it's because that like, and this is sort of the challenging thing I think of bringing superheroes to stage as well, because in superhero storytelling, the big thing is that the hero is meant to protect the status quo, and that they're there to make sure the world is not changed for the worse, right? And so that's one that like whenever it comes to theater, we're always told, at least in college or whatever it is in theater classes, that it's like, oh no, your character has to change by the end of this in some way. But I think back to those other characters, it's seeing the fact that like, no, this character is right. And seeing their beliefs be challenged and seeing them like grapple with it at a point and being like, no, I am right. The world is good. People are good.
And it's that symbol of hope too.
Yeah.
Same with Superman and
So yeah, of like having that type of hero present and character present in a stage play is something that I don't think really happens that often in plays, of, you know, someone who like buckles down and says, no, we're staying this way, unless you're talking about like golden age musicals when they're like, no, the musical will save the town. I'll show you.
And it does. It always does.
But also like, so the part of the challenge with that is bringing a force to oppose that hero that is like powerful enough to do so. And that's one of the compelling things is that Captain Amazing is specifically in his scenes is the main person we see him fight is Booming Boxer, right? And that's someone that he beats the first time around, and the second time it's more of a struggle, but he still wins in the end, right? But then after that, most of his fighting is actually against other heroes. And this is not, I won't get into like specifics for like spoilers and stuff, but it is through that the other heroes realize, oh, again, it's that inspiration, whether through inspiration through fire, kind of like, oh, crap, I made a mistake, I was wrong, and now I have to deal with the consequences of my actions, right?
I think also giving Captain Amazing a teenage sidekick is, for this version of the show, kind of adds a level to like he has to stay steady while his young ward is like going through all their like hormonal and existential crises that we go through as teenagers. Because we'll talk about this more in the Hero Triplets episode, but that like Sneak is a direct representation of Wendell, like himself. And I like the idea of if Sneak is Wendell, that Captain Amazing is the perspective that Wendell has on hope, which is why you kind of see the ebbs and flows of what happens with Captain Amazing's story throughout the stage play in comparison to like how does Captain Amazing interact with Sneak. And there's definitely there's a scene that you and I have that's like it's like half a page long, but it's one of my favorite parts in the show. Just challenge-wise as an actor of what happens when like you're the person that like you look up to the most and that you expect to have all the answers doesn't necessarily have the answers.
Right.
And what it's like to like kind of grapple with that and lose that confidence in that person. Again, just try not to spoil the show. Come see it. You'll understand. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I love that Captain Amazing was our kind of our anchor point for this show.
Yeah. I mean, the full cast of characters really was built around him.
It's been fun. And I'm glad that we got Hayden out of this process.
I'm honored to be in this, so it's been great.
It's been a joy to get to work with you and get to know you. And hopefully we get to keep playing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Before we wrap up this episode, Hayden, do you want to give any shout outs or like plugs, either people you love or projects that you're working on?
Well, I'll do my parents because they support me so much in all this stuff right now, which has been amazing. I actually, when I first wanted to really get into acting and pursue acting, because I do want to pursue acting as a career. You know, I have found such a deep passion for it. And, you know, being from Lubbock, Texas, and just the crowds I've been around, normally saying, hey, I want to be an actor, it's not really looked upon as like, oh, cool. It's like, oh, well, that's nice. And so I was really worried about how I was going to tell my parents, of all people, like, I don't want to go to college anymore and I want to go do this. And so for the longest time, I kept it from them. I didn't know how I was going to tell them until one day my dad kind of got it out of me and I just told them everything, and they've been amazing about it. So if I could shout anybody out, it would be my parents.
Nice. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your kid with us for a while. We're really grateful to have him. Ordinary Heroes is going to be performing at Hollingsworth Hall Cultural Center, where we are housed. That's our home base. We love being there. We will be performing there January 15th through the 18th, with our evening shows being at 7:30 Thursday through Saturday, and then our closing Sunday, we will have a 2:00 matinee. We are only running for one weekend, so please make sure that you get your tickets in advance for the show. Don't be late getting your tickets, because this is one that you're not going to want to miss, but also one that we are anticipating to be a pretty full run, hopefully.
Yeah.
But we cannot wait for us to officially introduce ourselves to Lubbock as Reinvent Productions. We can't wait to offer this handshake to y'all. That was all for this episode of Lore Drop. Our next episode will be about Dark Fog with our friend Liz Morgan, so make sure you're tuned in for that next time. But that is all for now.
And remember,
Being fantastic starts with being a fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Reinvent Productions is proudly sponsored by 5 Points Corporation Lubbock and Savannah Rashida Photography, as well as our other wonderful community patrons. Our home base in Lubbock is Hollingsworth Hall Cultural Center at 4228 Boston Avenue. For more information on how to support our 501c3 organization, you can check out our website at www.reinvent-productions.com. To directly support our upcoming audio drama, you can become a Lore Drop sponsor. For just $10, you can sponsor an episode of this podcast. All donations will go towards support for our upcoming production of Children of Destiny Cataclysm Season 1, which will begin releasing episodes June 22nd, 2026. Funds will go towards paying our wonderful voice actors and creative staff for their fantastic talent and time. We have over 30 artists globally working on this production, and we can't wait for you to hear it this summer. You can donate at givebutter.com/Lore Drop sponsor. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at reinvent.productions, as well as on Facebook and Twitch, where we stream gaming and a look behind the scenes on how we create our new works. Be sure to follow us to stay in the loop about upcoming productions, auditions, and more. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Lore Drop.
Oh my gosh, this one is so much smoother than the other ones we have done.
Really?
I mean,